We're David,
and Nicola McCarthy, and you're listening to Soulful Conversations,
the podcast for anyone wanting to live a heart-centered life, full of health, peace and happiness.
From all things healing, spiritual, magical, and the secret power of food, everything is energy.
It's an exciting time to be alive. Are you ready to explore and embrace the unseen with us?
So make yourself comfortable and get ready for some thought-provoking chat. This is Soulful Conversations, and we're thrilled that you're here sharing your time with us. I am so happy to have here today friend and fellow psychic medium, healer, life coach and spiritual teacher, Larry Davids. Larry and I have known each other for a few years now and love swapping stories. Otherworldly stories. Larry has, he began his career in quite a different field as a musician, a composer, actor, and I'm delighted to welcome him here today to share some of his stories, wisdom, and knowledge with you. Welcome, Larry. It's so good to see you. I can't believe you're here and going to be sharing some of your amazing insights and stories with our listeners today.
Well, thank you for having me, Nicola. I'm honored to be here. And thank you for listeners for taking the time out to listen to this wonderful podcast.
Thank you so much. Wow, we've got so much to cover here, haven't we? I mean, you know, we do very similar work and we always have so much to talk about. You've got an amazing, amazing stories to share with our listeners. Where did it all begin?
Well, going back to many moons ago when I was a young child, I always was aware of spirit because I used to play by myself in with my toys, and I always sensed like spirit energy. I didn't know what it was in those days. I just felt like children around me. And so I never had a need to play with other children like other children did. I just felt comfortable being by myself. And these so-called, even though I couldn't see them, I could sense them in those days. And then by the time I became a teenager, I would see leprechauns in the daytime and at nighttime. So for example, in the daytime, I could be in the garden on a sunny day, just playing my guitar, practicing. And I'd see 3 leprechauns run right by me. And then I'd go, oh, there they are again. And then at night, yeah.
Amazing. Like I love this leprechaun story. It's just incredible. I mean, how big were they?
Well, they look like midgets, if we're allowed to say that word these days. I don't know, but they weren't very tall. And they were a bit chubby. And they were dressed like, they were always white misty people. They weren't like green like you see in cartoons. They were white misty, always running in a rush. And for example, at night, my sister would be in bed. She'd go to bed around 7 p.m. and I'd go to bed around 9, 10 p.m. I'd see 1 or 2 of them running through her closed bedroom door. So I'd go through the door going, I'll catch this one. Because, you know, I was always trying to catch them when I could. And so I go in there and then my mom starts yelling at me, what are you doing? Waking up your sister, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, there's a little white misty thing that went, don't be so stupid, blah, blah, blah. So unfortunately, there was nobody I could talk to in those days saying, have you ever seen these kind of white misty people, you know, running around? And everyone said, you're mad, you're this, you're that. So, and what's bizarre, even in my 20s, I would see things all the time. I used to see auras around, like, you know, with my objective seeing, when you see it with your physical eyes, I'd stare at people, wow, look at that green. And, you know, when you see colors like that objectively, it always takes you by surprise because, for example, when we see a rainbow, oh, people always like taking it by the rainbow. Look at that rainbow, like they've never seen it. Yeah. And that's what it felt like. Every time I'd stare at people, wow, look at that green. Well, look at the intensity, you know, and I just would, of course, I'd get in trouble. People would say, what are you staring at?
Amazing. Like, that's just incredible. Why do you think the leprechauns came? Were they just like, were they there to play, to watch you, to guide you? Or did they have like a fun spirit?
Well, I think one is because my upbringing was rather challenging and difficult. But 2, I think because I was so into music, music is sound, vibration, it uplifts you, it feeds the soul. And also, because maybe without me realizing it in those days, I was already very sensitive to energy, which I didn't really know. I just was aware of it. So I think maybe there was a confirmation for me to realize I was in tune with the elemental kingdom without knowing about it. And that maybe it was my job or wake up, as it were, to really investigate this a lot further.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's just amazing. I just love that story so much. So when did they just disappear, stop coming?
Yeah, I guess because I didn't really do anything with it, like seeing auras. When you see things and you take it for granted, you don't really care. You just, oh, well, because I was more focused on my music. Even though by the age of 14, I started reading books about mediums and I started studying spiritual healing, um, and reading any books I could get in those days by what's called the masters now, like Enna Twig. I forget them all right now, but they're all long gone. Arthur Ledbetter, I think his name was, Anne Rice, I think, I forget all their names. But anyway, I'd read these books. And of course, in those days, mediumship was so different to what it is today. People would either have experiences with ectoplasm or just sound like they were really connecting on a very deep level compared to the way mediumship seems to be going these days. And so I was always reading any spiritual book I could. And that was thanks to my mom, because she'd come home from the library with books. And I used to think, gosh, this looks interesting. She never told me to read them. And I don't know why. It was this intuitive, it was like a magnet. I was being pulled to the books she used to read on spiritual stuff.
Amazing,
And
amazing.
it's as if maybe it was like something inside me that was trying to bring my attention to, you really, even though you're focused on music, you really have to learn to unfold
Yeah.
and
You're always getting that kind of that inner voice really trying to push you to notice things and to follow things. And this has happened to me recently with channeling. I used to be like such a dedicated channeler. I'd be like, it would be my love, and then you get so busy, you kind of like, you don't do it for a bit, and then you get this real, I'm sure that the listeners will, be interested in this, because it's kind of like, that's how you start. I think, so many people think, you're born psychic, you're born a medium, but actually it's a process, and if it's something that's even just an interest in you, that is really where you begin. It's like you're saying, your mum obviously noticed in you your sensitivity, and that you were able to, that's why she was like giving you these books. And yeah, it's just but a lot of us don't have that. We don't have people around us that, well, encourage us. It's kind of like looked upon as being a bit odd, a bit strange. And I mean, going back years and years ago, when you're talking about, well, maybe you can explain what ectoplasm is, because I mean, even that as a word now is not really used. I mean, those mediums were incredible. Why do you think that's changed so much?
well, as other well-known mediumship teachers have said, is because the times are changing, as Bob Dylan would say. So I guess the need for the way we present information from the other side has changed, and maybe communication models need to change. For example, these days, we don't have telegrams anymore. We have technology, we have email. So, you could have a person in the 80s who are not familiar with technology saying, why do we need these computers? Why do you need this so-called mobile phone? Where they're so conditioned to communicating a different way. And of course, as you know, we had World War I and II. So there was a great need for mediumship in those days, because so many parents were losing their young children to the
Yeah,
war,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so much unnecessary death happening. So of course there was a great need. So maybe you could say that World War I and II must have acted as a catalyst for mediumship to come more and more to the surface.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there was some amazing mediums back then. Incredible books, and I read those books and I'm just in awe of, the way that they worked and the information that they received. I mean, was quite incredible. But you're right. It's we adapt and we change with the times, don't we? And and so our work does, even when we met it was a lot more, presenting the information and going to spiritualist churches, which I know you've worked a lot in the spiritualist churches and was always trying to get me along to join you. And I haven't yet.
You'll wait. Yeah.
But you did a lot of work there, didn't you?
Yeah, it all started for me in 2013. I never wanted to be what's called a demonstrating medium. I just wanted to be a one-to-one medium. And in 2013, the churches started ringing me up, and I was so scared. I go, oh, how the heck did they get my number? I don't want to go on platform. That was the last thing I wanted to do because I had a lot of fear with that. So after about 2 weeks, I decided I must really learn to overcome this fear. So I started asking other mediums if they'd like to dem with me. Nearly all of them said, no, no. And I'm thinking, but you're all studying mediumship with all these renowned teachers, and now here's an opportunity, and they all chickened out. So finally, I found a couple of people who said, okay. And of course, they're saying, you go first, because nobody wanted to go first, because both of us are right? And of course, because I wasn't properly trained to do what's called a church service, I was only studying mediumship. Nobody had prepared me for doing what's called the address, opening prayer, closing prayer, dealing with politics of the churches, a chairperson who doesn't care, who might fall asleep, etc., etc. I just thought church.
You're painting such a beautiful picture.
Well, I can give you lots of what's called juicy stories about my demon experiences, that's for sure. So, of course, luckily I'd been to churches watching other mediums work. So luckily I had a rough idea what I was supposed to do, but it's different when, as you know, you're kind of thrown in the deep end, and then the chairperson says, okay, you do the opening prayer. I want you to do an address, and okay, blah, blah, blah. So the way I overcame my fear was working with the fear by inviting any medium I could. And as I say, I only found 2 at the time. And of course, I could feel their nervous energy on me on platform, and that wasn't helping my nerves, because there I am nervous, and I'm feeling their
plug
nervousness.
into their energy. Being so sensitive, you feel everybody around you, don't you? Yeah.
And so I would give 2 links, and then they'd give 2 links. So that's the way I kind of learned to build my stamina. So I did that for a year or 2. And one year, a medium let me down on the day of the dem. She says, oh, I'm going to go to a party instead, so just do the dem by yourself. And I was so scared. I got to the church, and it was the first time I'm standing on platform by myself. And then I did it. And then I thought, God, it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. So I feel like at that time, that must have been the spirit world pushing me out of my comfort zone to make me realize you don't need these other people anymore. You have to start doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
But to this day, I still like to invite other mediums as yourself to work with me, because I find it really boring for a 90-minute church service and you just see one person. And I think for the public, it's more interesting. Oh, who's that other person up there who's going to, and as you know, as mediums, it's like music. We might learn the same foundational language, but we all end up working slightly differently to each other. Our personality is different, our blueprint's different, etc., etc.
Oh, well, maybe we'll have a little chat after the podcast, and you might be able to twist my arm. Oh dear. So going back to your mom. So your mom used to bring you books and give you books to read on spiritual matters. That's amazing. So was she a spiritualist herself, medium herself?
Yeah, she was a natural medium, but she used to say to me, oh, I'll let you do all the work. Because she used to see my father walk through the TV set in the front room when he passed away, go through the walls into the bedroom. And once when she was on a meditation retreat for transcendental meditation, she was there for a week and she was in bed. It was the daytime, just resting. And she saw her grandmother and grandfather as clear as life. And of course, when you see that unexpectedly, of course, you're going to be taken aback. And because it was so real and vivid, to the day she passed away, she would always talk about that. Like they were real, well, they were real people. They came to her and they said, oh, today's fashion is not what it used to be. And they were critiquing her clothes. And then I said, well, how long did that last for? She says, I don't know. It felt like a long time, but it couldn't have been more than maybe 3 minutes, she said. Because, you know, when spirit make an appearance, it might feel like a long time from our physical 3-dimensional living, but from a spiritual perspective, it's so different to our earthly time.
That's it. I mean, wow, that, for a start, that's amazing. Like, how incredible to actually see them. I mean, the way that we receive information is quite different from the way that we see things, as you say, in the 3D world. It's faster, it's higher vibrational, it's very, 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 very quick information that, in a sense, well, when I started reading, I couldn't keep up. My voice almost couldn't keep up with what I was experiencing. And it's not often that we see things or spirit actually form like a physical person, but we see them in our mind's eye, almost like I explain it as almost like a dream. Like you would see things in a dream in your in your third eye. How do you receive information from the spirit world? Do you, because there's different ways, isn't there? We can see, hear, feel, sense.
Right, yeah. Well, as I say, as a child, when I used to see leprechauns, that's called objective seeing because I could clearly see it with my physical eyes.
Yeah.
And then when I started seeing spirit, I'm not one of those mediums like you read in books. Oh yeah, I saw a spirit from the age of 3 sitting at the my bed. Or I never had any experience like that. And so as I got into my 20s and I started studying mediumship any way I could through books, workshops, whatever I could find, because in the earlier days, mediumship wasn't advertised like it is today, as where, oh, join this mentorship program or join this church circle. It was like kind of top secret in those days. It was like you had to know someone who was in a circle. And then I started
What's a
seeing,
circle, just so people can understand what a circle is?
yeah, from my understanding, what a circle is, it's normally led by an experienced person or a mediumship teacher. And there's what's called a closed circle, meaning you have to be invited. So the same people show up every week, say on a Monday at 7 p.m., every Monday evening for an hour. And an open circle, it means it's open to the public. So anyone can show up once a week to try it out if they like it, et cetera, et cetera. And it's all about, from what I understand, building your energies up, and experienced people will like maybe give different things for us to try. And then also, from my understanding, it's about us getting together and sitting in the power, which is building up your energy. I don't really like that word power because it gives different connotations. I prefer the word energy. What are we? We're all energy. Everything's energy in life.
Yeah.
Spirit's energy. We're energy. So I don't know why people don't say it's about building up your energy. So as you raise your vibration frequency, you're able to receive more, as you say, from the higher dimensions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's a bit like channeling. What is channeling? Where you're allowing yourself to be open to receive those higher impressions.
Yeah.
And, as you know, any form of meditation is really good because it allows us to develop and work on our sensitivities. And the word you used earlier, the pineal gland, which produces melatonin and a chemical called DMT, which is what acid does, meaning you have these spiritual experiences. So all these things kind of work hand in hand. And that's why the ancient seers and teachers were amazing. They knew the importance of why do we do meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, because we're a physical body with an energy body. The two live together, work together. So why not allow ourselves to unfold the spiritual body in consolidation with our physical body so our lives can somehow be easier and smoother to navigate through?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So have you got any spiritual experiences that you any messages maybe that you've received that were like out of the ordinary, or because when we give messages to people, we were just having a little chat, weren't we, before, and you know you often don't remember. I really don't remember hardly anything that I've given people, and you'll see them maybe every year or something for a reading, and they'll refer to what you told them the previous year, and I just don't remember anything. But there's certain things that were like so like either incredible or shocking or unusual, that really really stick out, and they kind of stay in your heart. You really remember those ones. I mean, it's obviously you want to keep people, their their private stuff, private. But I didn't know if you've got any juicy, any juice to share with us.
One of the things I predicted when Boris Johnson became prime minister, I gave him 2 years and everyone said, you're mad. He's not going to abdicate or whatever. And then I think it was roughly 2 years later, he started having all these problems as a prime minister. And then look at him now. So people said when that happened, they started emailing me, gosh, what you predicted 2 years ago regarding his career starting to come true. But one of the funniest things I had was once I used to go to these, they used to have before COVID, people in their homes would invite a medium, and then they would invite their friends, and it was like Deming, but it wasn't a church, it was in someone's front room. And I remember there was 10 people in this front room, and I was doing my mediumship, and I went to this woman. I said, oh, I have your father here. And she says, it's impossible, he's dead. And everyone burst out laughing because she'd never seen a medium and she didn't understand. And I didn't know, because in those days, I should have said, has anyone here not seen a medium or not know what a medium is? I just assumed
Prepare them. Yeah.
the woman had invited me to do a dem. And so I did that. And she kept saying, no, you got it wrong. So I gave her all this evidence about her father. And after the link, she says, I don't know how you did that. Everything you said made perfect sense, but he's dead. She couldn't get over it that he was communicating from the spirit world. So that was kind of funny. And another funny story I have, once I was in the spiritual church about 4 years ago, and I'm demming away, and I hear a loud sound. And I look at the back of the church, someone fell backwards on their chair. So I said to the chairperson, oh, I think we have an incident there. He just said, oh, don't worry about it. He's there every week. He's just an alcoholic. Don't worry about it. And I thought, oh, what a weird church. Then the chairperson fell asleep. And it was just like a scene from a Peter Sellers movie. It was like one incident after another in that church, people on their phones having a chit chat. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a strange place to be holding, and this is a spiritual church. And it was one of those things I'd heard about from other mediums, not about that church, but how sometimes when you dem in a spiritual church, you never know what you might get. And I thought, oh my gosh, all my fears came true. I never expected someone to faint in the church, the chairperson to fall asleep, actually snore on the platform, people actually pulling phone out, having conversations during my demming, my address. So how do you deal with that?
You have to be so prepared, don't you? I remember this happened to me when completely different, but when I was in America and I was teaching a macrobiotic conference, and it was a really big audience. They had film, they were filming me, and oh my God, there was a storm going. The lights went out. The actual light that they had shining on me fell down, smashed all over the floor. I don't know, some of the ingredients fell over. It was just like, you just can't believe it. It's almost like, yeah, again, it's energy, isn't it? It's like, one thing, it's almost like it builds and it just builds and builds. You almost want to clear that as it's after the first thing, just pull yourself back, center yourself, ground, and clear that energy. It's just it's fascinating. But like you say, it's like working with animals and children. You just got to be ready and prepared, haven't you? Oh my goodness. And you've worked on some some big stages too, the not just churches, which is wonderful because reach a lot of people, but you've worked with, I'm sure some people will know James Van Prague and Tony Stockwell, Gordon Smith. You've worked with all of them on big stages. How was that?
Well, you're right. I remember being on platform at an institution in London, a well-known college, and I was sitting next to him and I thought, gosh, I felt like I was on a train. His energy I could really feel his energy, his vibration increasing. His eyes.
Gordon Smith or?
Oh, Gordon Smith, that's right. Yeah. Sorry. And, as a medium, I was trying to see if I could find any secrets about him. How's he preparing himself? What's he doing? And obviously he's so used to being a medium and so comfortable being on platform.
Yeah.
I could feel his energy building up. And, he's working the crowd and blah, blah, blah. And then it was my turn. And in my head, I think, oh my gosh, how the heck am I going to follow that? Anyway, he sits on a chair, says, okay, just relax and go for it. So I did. And luckily, I always say luckily, all my links worked out really good, like lots of beautiful evidential mediumship. So at the end of the evening, I said to him, oh, you know, he compliments me and he says to the audience, well, there you go. There's proof of a working medium. That's how mediumship should be done. So he gave me a little compliment on platform, which was
Oh,
embarrassing, you know. And then at the end, as we're going home, I said to him, gosh, Gordon, you're amazing, blah, blah, blah. How did you do that? You know, have you got any advice for me? Hot tips? He says, oh, no, just keep doing what you're doing. And I said, what do you mean? It's the only way you're going to learn. You have to keep deming. When you actually work or something, he said, you don't realize it. You put yourself in the hot seat, your skill set starts developing naturally. He says, that's the best way to learn. And he also said, never forget about sitting in the power. He says, I still sit in the power when I can. And that's what he said. And I went home so disappointed because I thought he'd have this mind-blowing information.
have really, yes, have the secret. There is no secret though, is there? It's all
Yeah,
within us. It's
that's
all
right.
within us. And for those of you that are listening, it's within you, it really is. And you can if you're listening to this, there's a reason, you kind of like especially if you're interested in what we're talking about, it's kind of it's something that can be developed at any age. It's not, a child or, I mean, I didn't start my mediumship until I was in my 30s. My kids had just started school and things in the house had just started to quieten down, and I had some time to myself. And that's it, isn't it? It's like when you're in that peaceful, quiet state, and it's all about asking, and asking for some help. I mean, our guides are there, and well, you've had some incredible experiences with guides. Do you want to share the story?
Sure. In 2006, when I was a music lecturer at university, I used to teach part-time, which gave me time to do my spiritual work part-time when I was no longer a full-time musician playing everywhere. A piano fell on me and I had an out-of-body experience, which I didn't know because I saw myself lying on the ground and the fireman finally came because the university is in a mountain. So the fireman got lost. So that's a bit of a joke in itself. Anyway, they had these huge scissors. They're ripping up my trousers. And I said to them, I charge extra for that. Nobody's laughing at my joke. So I'm looking around and go, that's funny. Nobody can hear me. And that's when I realized I was actually floating outside my body, observing everything. Because when you're first outside your body, from my personal experience, you don't really realize it. You just see yourself and you don't think, oh, I'm actually not in my physical body. You just see, oh, look at that. Everything seems like interesting and you feel different. Energetically, you feel different. You feel so free and flowing, not like you do in the physical body. And I was thinking, gosh, maybe I'm dead. Where's all these angels? Where's this tunnel of white light I'm supposed to see? I was in blackness, darkness. I thought, this is weird. I wasn't scared, but I was just thinking, this is weird. And then I started hearing this voice, this loud man's voice saying, you must go back. You're not supposed to be here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, oh no, but I like it here. It feels much different than being over there. And you have no care anymore about your physical body, about your physical life. Well, for me anyway, it just felt like, oh, well, I'd rather stay here.
So
But
no pain, there was no pain, no suffering. You're just in this blissful state.
yeah,
And you could see the experience that was going on in the
unfolding in
room.
front of me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though you see it, I didn't feel anything like, oh my gosh, what the heck happened? You just feel a sense of relief, basically, that you're no longer in this physical form. And as soon as the fireman put this oxygen mask on me, that's it. I was sucked back into the body. And as soon as I woke up, as it were, oh my gosh, I could feel all that pain. And then I was thinking, gosh, where was I? A second ago, I was feeling amazing. Now I'm back in this body. So that was an interesting experience. But then I realized I had to have energy work on me to get rid of this trauma in my energy body and physical body. So as I was trying to recuperate at home, because I couldn't teach anymore, I had to take time off, I Googled energy healers And because I was already a Reiki practitioner and a sound healer, I already had what's called the table, the massage table. She came around and she did something called the reconnective something. I forget the actual name of the modality, but it's reconnective something. And she did it. And as she's doing it, for me, it was mind blowing. I started having this vision of this man, and he looked so real, like he was like Jesus. And, I find it hard when people say, I saw Jesus, because myself, I think, yeah, right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I'm seeing this man and he's speaking and I'm looking at his face. His mouth is not actually moving. And I'm thinking, how am I able to hear all this information? And obviously he was communicating telepathically, and he's giving me all this information like, oh, don't worry, you're not going to die. You have a lot of work to do. You need to focus more on your spiritual work. Why are you not doing that full time? This is your destiny. And, I'm thinking that's my imagination. And I think, yeah, right. How am I going to pay the bills? Teaching music pays the bills, blah, blah, blah. So he kept telling me not to worry. But what was amazing, it wasn't just seeing him. It was the energy that I felt radiating from him, like this unbelievable energy and power and unconditional love that is really hard to put into words when you actually feel that energy. It's like seeing a newborn child or a young puppy dog. It's hard to put into words. Oh, I saw this really cute dog today. People would just say, yeah, so what? But when you're there in their energy, it really touches your heart. So I never forgot that vision. And as I was recuperating, because I broke my left knee as well as having muscle damage everywhere from that piano incident, I was cleaning my dishes or trying to in the kitchen on one leg. And then I had this vision of Goddess Lakshmi floating right there so I could clearly see it in my kitchen in the air. And I'm looking at it and going, oh my gosh, what the heck am I looking at now? Because when these things come to you, well, they always comes when you least expect it. You don't expect it. And when you see them, it's not just you can see them objectively with your physical eyes. It's the energy that comes through them, from them. And I thought
incredible.
The same thing.
Yeah.
I got another message saying, you're wasting your time with your music. You must move on. Stop being stubborn. And it's like this vision was telling me off for being stubborn. I'm thinking, stubborn? I'm trying to get over this piano incident.
Wow. Amazing.
I had a reading with a woman who's very well known, Sonia Choquette, in 2008 on the phone. I had my 30-minute reading. For 30 minutes, she was telling me off. Why am I not doing this work full time? Do you realize how gifted you are? And in my head, I'm thinking, this woman's mad. I need to be financially responsible. I can't pack in my teaching job. So anyway, she invited me to a so-called boot camp in Chicago. So I did her 3 levels of training. And in level 2, as she's standing on that podium with the microphone talking to about 100 people in the hotel room, I was just transfixed staring at her, going, it's weird. I see a man behind her. So when it was lunchtime, I approached her and said, I hope you don't think I'm crazy, but the whole time you're speaking, I'm seeing this image of a man. She says, okay, how is he dressed? I told her. And then she starts crying, saying, oh my gosh, you just brought my dad. He passed a week ago. I didn't want to say anything because you know what it's like. You teach a room full of psychics. They're all going to come up if you say my dad passed away and say, oh, I got your dad. She says, I wanted to see if anybody really did see him without me saying a thing. And then she said, you've made my day. She gave me a big hug. And it was so vivid and real like as well, just like those visions. And when I saw him, you see the spirit, you see him standing there, you're getting information, or I was getting information. So I just gave everything I got and she could take it all. And I thought, wow, if I could do mediumship like that all the time, it would be so much easier.
Isn't it interesting? I think, when we're with other mediums, I don't know whether we raise our energy, I mean, the same things happened to me when I was on Lisa Williams, when she came back to the UK and and she was doing like this little reading or demming or something. We were studying with her or something. And David's son was just standing right next to her. And he was looking at me and he had a hula hoop, like a big, is that what they're called? The big hula hoops that you kind of do this thing to try and keep it up. And he was doing this. He was hula hooping next to her. And I was like, what on earth? Why is he doing that? And then within like 10 seconds, she started pretending she had a hula hoop around her waist. And I'm like, that was really a very strange kind of thing. But he knew what she was about to do. And it was kind of all like, it was just, again, it's just all the time, just giving you a bit of confirmation and like trying to get you to notice and to be aware and to follow that feeling, you know. Wow, that's amazing that you gave her a reading on your reading. It's like, yeah, it's hysterical. It's amazing work though, isn't it? It's just so it's it doesn't feel like work, you know. I don't know about you, but you know, you do similar things to me as well, like the sound therapy and the healing and the life coaching, and you know, it's do you use everything together, and does you know the spirit world come through at the same time?
Well, in the early days when I was doing life coaching, sound healing, Reiki, teaching psychic mediumship, I thought I had to keep everything separate. But what was happening, I started finding everything started melting, blending together. And I thought, God, this is not right. I got to try and keep it separate. But obviously, maybe the spirit world wanted me to work that way. So you're right. Whether I do life coaching, sound healing, Reiki, teaching psychic mediumship, it just information just come out when you least expect it. And as you say, because you're not really trying and you're working with energy, your awareness is starting to change. So you're in a better position to bring in what's called impressions from the higher
Yeah,
realms,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. And I think, you know, the way, again, like going back to, we were talking about how times are changing, it's becoming a more of a freer society. And I think, you know, it's not so structured anymore. You know, I think when people come for one-to-one help, you know, everyone's so different and they all need different things. I mean, you know, people can come to me for a one-to-one and I have no idea what they want, you know, and we end up in a past life regression, um, tapping or doing matrix re-imprinting, and I'm giving them light language. But it's like, you know, you have no idea, but it's like, you know, what's going to work with that person. Um, and, you know, I know that you know, you work with many different modalities, don't you? You use tuning forks.
Yeah, I studied with the College of Sound Healing in the UK. And so I became what's called an accredited sound healer. And then I did what's called extra modules to become, well, they call it gong master, but I don't like the word master, but that's what they call you. So I learned to specialize with gongs, Himalayan bowls, crystal bowls, using the voice, and then tuning forks. And then I thought when the pandemic came, there's no way to work anymore, like with these big, gongs. They all take space. They're really loud. So I started focusing more on working with the tuning forks, and then I did extra, I don't know what you call it, modules with specialized teachers who only specialize in working with tuning forks. And now I only use that because they're mobile. I work in like hairdressers or and where they get pedicure, manicure, because a lot of those places have what's called a healing couch. So and I work in their back room, and I just bring my tuning forks, and I can do my work there now without disturbing anyone. And tuning forks, as you know, is very powerful because everything's vibration frequency. So I never, as you know, we're not allowed to claim. For example, I had a Japanese woman, she had breast cancer, and she came to me in desperation. I said, I'm sorry, I can't guarantee I can cure you, but I said, I can give you some healing and see if you notice a change. After 2 sessions, she went back to the doctor for the x-ray, and she didn't need the operation. The tumor had shrunk so much, the doctor said, well, we don't know what you've done, but you don't need this operation anymore. She came to me, gave me a box of chocolate, crying her eyes out, saying, oh, I don't know what you've done. You're a wizard, you're a magician. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I think it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, sound is so powerful, you know, so powerful. And you know, I was really drawn to the crystal bowls, and I totally get why you use the forks. I mean, it's quite a process carrying them around. Um, but you know, the experience that people have are just, well, and that I've had, obviously, because that's why I've got them. I mean, I've experienced it myself. it takes you to other places, and raises your vibration so much that you're able to release so much from the body, and to really, you know attract other things into your life, because your vibration raises so much. So yeah, I mean, I love what you do, and I followed you on, I think it must have been Facebook, when you were doing your retreat recently in Bali. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was interesting. A couple of clients that I've been working with over the years remembered me. And for example, the organizer, a husband, had never seen a medium before. And I brought his father in. And because he'd never seen a medium before, he wasn't like your typical recipient who's very open. Oh, yeah, that's right. Enthusiastic, very, not shut down, but closed, I guess, right? And I wasn't really sure if I was making a good connection with him. Later on, his wife sent me a message. Oh my God, he was so impressed with you. He brought his father in, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so she remembered me. So she invited me saying, would you like to come with me and this other practitioner to do a retreat in Bali? And at first, I think I said no, because Bali, that's miles away. What do I want to go to Bali for, right? You know how when we're invited to do something that we've never done, we have to leave our comfort zone. Nobody goes, yeah, Bali, sure, no problem. Well, not me anyway. So anyway, I thought about it. I thought, oh, well, maybe again, like Deming for the first time, maybe I have to learn to overcome this fear, go to a country. And then I did research on Bali, because you hear all these horror stories, getting the Bali belly, et cetera, et cetera. So of course that put me off as well. Luckily, I didn't get anything there. But anyway, so I went there and and I gave a workshop on sound healing. Now, because sound healing, as you know, many people don't know what it is. And because I was in Bali, I couldn't bring anything with me. I did bring my tuning forks, and I did end up giving everyone what's called one-to-one healing, which they were blown away with. But using the voice, nobody was used to using the voice for healing. So they all thought, well, some of them anyway, what a waste of time this is, because I had them standing in circle and doing all these voice exercises. And the ones who were very skeptical came up to me at the end of the sound healing workshop. They were transformed. They were saying these amazing stories, how they felt healed, cleansed, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, ooh, and the ones that were very resistant, it was interesting. After 2 or 3 days, they became like loving little puppy dogs. They were so kind, as opposed to that macho energy, like shut down.
Yeah.
And then I gave workshops on LOA, law of attraction, and also on psychic development as well. And on the last day, they were supposed to be going sightseeing, but they wanted more training. So I just did what's called complimentary workshops on the Saturday, on the last day there, because I'd rather be working and teaching than going sightseeing anyway, because Bali, you're up in the mountains and the roads are not like here, the old windy roads. You can get car sick easily. It's so hot and humid there nonstop. So I thought, well, it's good for me. I'd rather stay here and then just work and teach, So even though it was complimentary, because I love what I do, as you love what you do, I'd rather do that because that's my passion as well. And
Yeah.
they really enjoyed it. So overall, the Bali retreat was a big hit. And now the organizer is looking and conducting another one next year. So I guess I'll be posting that up on my social media once I get the dates confirmed as well.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Wow. Well, maybe you can share with us, your all of your social media and your website, and anything else that you have coming up. I mean, have you got anything else that you want to share with us at all, or any
This year, I created my first online psychic mediumship development course, which is available on my website, larrymedium.com. So it's larrymedium.com. And, it's not so much everything I've learned from teachers and books. It's more my personal experience on learning how to work with one-to-ones, DMing in public, churches, creating live events. How do you deal with no's? What do you do to protect yourself? Energy management. Things like most tutors don't really discuss, because every time I've studied with the teachers, more like, well, let's get into pairs now. And it's all like, oh yeah, this is fun. But in the real world, I find a lot of people are not like what you get in like-minded people. They might be shut down or tough. or say no all the time. For example, I was doing an online demonstration, and that's another thing I talk about. Because of COVID, I didn't know if I could dem online. I'd never heard of Zoom. I thought they were joking when they say, oh, the churches started contacting me saying, we're going to start conducting our services on Zoom. I'm thinking, Zoom, are they pulling my leg? What the heck's Zoom? So I downloaded Zoom, and I thought, I was honest with them. I said, I've never done any demonstration online. I don't even know if I can do it. They said, well, just try.
Yeah.
And then I did, and it worked. I thought, wow, how did I do that? I can't believe it works.
I know. You just think, I was the same. Now I do all my work online, or most of it.
I know, that's the other thing. Most of my work's done online, except for my sound healing, because I still work in the spiritual churches. Now I find I'm working what's called hybrid, meaning a lot of my work is online, like my teaching psychic mediumship, life coaching, giving readings. But I do like to still mix with real people, because I think you can't just isolate yourself and do everything online. We're social beings. We need the interaction of humans as well. So now I'm just learning to blend doing things outside, as it were, and things on the inside, trying to balance the two different ways of working.
Amazing.
And I forgot your question. What was your question again?
Yeah. Well, and have you anything else to share? Because you've also got, you're in the process of writing a book, is that right?
Yeah, I've just finished my new music book called So You Want to Play Guitar. And it starts off by guitar, and it's for beginners, intermediates, to professionals, because throughout the book, I also teach about things like how to learn what's called the keys of music, or scales, or how to improvise, how to use the right brain, left brain to learn music. I'm all a great believer.
Intuitive, yeah.
Yeah, speed learner. And again, it's everything I've intuited when I used to teach at university and privately, which I still do a little bit. And I would make notes. I think, oh, that's a good way to explain this. So, and when I was teaching, I was testing these principles out at university. All my students, this is why the book came about. Said, oh, you should write about this. Oh, this is great. Why don't you have a book? It would make our life so much easier. So that's how the book came about. And I just finished it last week. So it's going to be self-published for now. So again, I believe that will be available on my website, larrymedium.com. And now I'm going to be finishing what's called my spiritual books. One of them is called My Magical Days. It's a glimpse into my life, 30 days into a month, on how do I integrate these energetic or spiritual principles in everyday life. Because as you know, spiritual principles is not just to be a psychic or a medium or a healer. It's meant to be integrated in everyday life. Like exercise, we don't exercise to become involved in the Olympics. We exercise for overall being as well, maintain good health. As we get older, we need to maintain stamina, flexibility, stretching out the vertebrae column, etc., etc.
Well, maybe I need to buy that.
Or as your keto diet, the importance of diet. Maybe as you get older, your constitution's changing. Maybe you can no longer handle the food groups you used to be able to. And I know from your expertise and experience with you and David that you're like specialized people. You're able to understand this and guide and help people with well, let's look at your diet and see if you can notice any changes where there's health issues or energy, etc., etc.
Yeah, amazing. What a wonderful life. So much to explore, so much to do, so little time. Well, look, Larry, it's been amazing to have you on here as a guest and sharing all your wonderful stories. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your time with us. And yeah, if you want to check out Larry, then you'll see all of his details in the show notes. And please do, get in touch with him if you want a reading, or to take a look at one of his courses, or to go see him in Bali next year. Might even do that myself. Well, thank you so much, Larry, and have a wonderful remainder of your day.
Thank you so much. Pleasure. And we'll see everyone next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.